so sorry about that. There we go. There we go. I don't know why it was doing that, but it was. Okay, can you guys hear me now? I was just talking to nobody this whole time. I feel really stupid. See, this is why I should have tested things out. Oh, wow, that's really causing latency now. Dang. Gosh, it shouldn't be this laggy. Holy crud. It really should not be this laggy. It wasn't this way earlier. What is going on? Now I'm a little embarrassed. Uh-huh. Will that make it better? I hope so. Sorry about that. I wasn't sure if you were just talking or if you weren't. It's okay. Yeah, I was trying to talk, but gosh, the lag. Holy smokes. I'll save this. My goodness. I probably lost some viewers because of that, but whatever. Because I've noticed there's less people watching now. It's okay. I'm not very great with the streaming technology. I've only done this a few times. This is what I get for changing over. So, that's what I get. Gosh, wish it wasn't so laggy though with my. There's got to be a better way to do this. I tried to test some of this stuff earlier too. It's probably just because of the upload speed. Let's see. There we go. Wonder if this helps. Maybe just a little bit. So, oh my gosh. It's really lagging now. Yeah, I understand putting off streaming. It's a little hard. Um, what if I slow down the chat if I don't shut? Oh, that actually helped a little bit. Okay, is there anything else I can show that's anything else I can hide here that will make it so it's faster? Oh yeah, there we go. Just hiding things on the streaming app helped. That's much better. It's still going a little slow though. I wish it wouldn't. This is a little hard to draw this way. Especially since I use really fast lines and stuff. So, also, if you see me like bending down over here, it's me checking the chat because I don't have dual monitors. I don't I do everything on the laptop. Oh my gosh. Okay. Is there anything else I can do to make it so this isn't so slow? Um, let's see. Let's see. don't capture my cursor. Let's just do. Will this make it faster? Oh, hopefully. Oh, yes. Okay. I figured out what was making it lag. It was capturing the cursor. Now we'll go faster. Now you guys won't see where my cursor is, but I promise it's there. But you guys probably would rather see me just drawing normally. So there we go. That's way better. Holy smokes. That's way better. Well, screw capturing the cursor then, I guess. I'd rather you guys just see the image that's being drawn. Anyways, I was gonna say, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I would love to answer some while I'm drawing. I'm using Streamlabs for this, by the way, because people recommended that to me, but it's way different than. I guess it uses OBS still or something, but it's much different than OBS in my opinion, just with how everything's set up and run. And I feel like it's a little more intensive, so I might not use it. Now it's wizardry without the cursor. Yes, yes, good. Yes, it's just conjuring the image all by itself. That's what I want you to think. Yeah, I'd rather you guys be able to not see this while it's lagging, because that's a little embarrassing when it lags, and then you can't really see what's going on. Let's see. Let's add a little bit more dark. So one thing I've been doing instead of because I used to do a lot more shading when I did my stuff. I was recommended to stop doing the shading the way I was doing it and focus more on composition, like I did with my Blue Moon comic, and that made it turn out a lot better, in my opinion. So what I've been doing is, oh, hopefully things are okay on here. If it ever goes black, by the way, I think that's me changing a tab. I'm watching my stream on my phone at the side just to see if there's any problems, because I want you guys to be able to watch it do, you know? Yeah, that doesn't look good. There we go. For those who've read a lot of Emerald Man, you would know what's going on right now. He has his little phantom needle that will thread up his costume when he needs it. It's easier than just explaining him having to wear these, like, the heck he puts his robes all the time. Maybe is that lazy for storytelling? Maybe a little, but I'll be honest. I like that this looks a lot visually cooler. So there you go. Be honest though, I don't really have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Usually, when I'm very silent when I'm drawing. But yeah. So what we're drawing here, by the way, is a quick transformation sequence. There's two on this page, if you can see from the bottom. And yes, I draw all these by hand originally. So even though I'm tracing on here, it's my own artwork. I can promise you that. If you're wondering what these lines are behind his head, that was me trying to make sure he was level the entire time when I was drawing him. That way it didn't look too weird. I like how expressive you are with the characters, says Cool Crusaders. Thank you. Yes, that's one of my strengths, everybody tells me, which is kind of weird because I do have autism and I can't always tell how people are talking to me all the time, but it's also made me have to study people's faces and expressions a lot more. So the more subtle ones, I don't always get, but that's why I tend to be a little bit more like my stuff gets a little more exaggeratory. But it works for comics because most comics rely on exaggeration because they're most comics use cartoons. And that was a big appeal of comic books to me was I like cartoons, not like the weird, gross ones that come on TV nowadays with Cal Arts and Cred. I don't like that. I don't. And by the way, just because someone who's not that great coined Cal Arts doesn't mean you can't use that term still, because he was correct. Like I agree with a lot of people in history being correct that I don't like. It's called growing up. There we go. I'm just glad this isn't so slow now for you guys. And on my end, that makes it so I can draw with more precision. And that's what we want to see is precision. Exaggeration, as Patrick Buckley says, exaggeration is the spite of art and storytelling. I agree. If you want something like, here's my thing about when people say, "Oh, this isn't realistic." Sometimes I'll use that as an argument when something like breaks the laws of physics or something scientifically impossible. But when it comes to fiction, I'm tend to be a little bit more lenient because I have a pretty high suspension of disbelief myself. So I'll like corny and silly things that are just out of hand and whatnot. But the issue comes when, like, for example, you're doing historical fiction. I'm a little bit more critical. Or you're making an adaptation of something in history. I just if you're adapting history, I get a bit critical with what you're doing with the story. Like I understand every now and then there's a time and place for some historical what's it called? I'm forgetting the term. Let's just say liberties in an art, and you can't get everything historically right, obviously. Usually not, especially if you're doing historical fiction. There's going to be fiction to it, but you want to make sure you're not sacrificing the history itself, you know? So, uh, Patrick Buckley says subtlety is for hacks. Yes. Well, no, not entirely. I can enjoy a little bit of subtlety. I don't use a lot of it, but I think subtlety is important if you're like telling, for example, a good mystery story needs subtlety, or you're gonna suddenly feel like, oh well, it's too obvious. So you need to have subtlety when it comes to like you're writing detective fiction, for example. But with my Emerald Man stuff, no, I'm very rare. I do have some subtlety. I'm very rarely subtle though. There was one moment in issue I think 3 where like I showed Carolina looking where Emerald Man's jewel was, trying to show that she recognized who he was. A lot of people didn't get that, and that was one of my problems with some of my beta readers for my original issue. Was that some of them were like, "Oh well, I didn't realize this was so and so," and they didn't like they couldn't pick up the tool. Oh, I know you're not being serious, Patrick. But it's just something is something that ponders my that comes across my mind though is there's a thin line between subtlety being good and whatnot and subtlety being bad. Also, this is evidence of my autism because I took it for I took it face value your statement. But yeah, it's sometimes it can be. When it comes to me, I usually don't use a lot of subtlety because number one, I'm not good at it. Number two, I like it when people pick up my clues, and I actually think I make them very obvious. But even then, some people are like, "Oh, I didn't realize that one." So Patrick Buckley says, "I should know better. I do the same thing." Yeah, yep. But yeah, I prefer to. It's funny because with, for example, the stuff with the marrow. Some people knew something was. I had to make it very obvious with Carolina when the first instance of like, oh, this is what's going on. Because apparently, it's a lot of people when I had my beta readers, they weren't picking up on a lot of the clues that I was putting down there, and they were like, "Oh, this came out of nowhere." It's like, well, no, because you weren't watching so and so, and I realized, well, that was pretty hard for them to even realize something was going on there. Would it make me look more clever? Maybe, but at the same time, the reader doesn't want this to feel like it's coming out of nowhere until it's like actually shown to them. I've very rarely seen it where the clues are so subtle that it actually becomes satisfying. There's one instance, for example, in Knights of the Old Republic. Uh, mute me for like the next few minutes if you don't want to hear the spoilers, but for Knights of the Old Republic 1. But the main character is Revan, the one of the villains that you're told about in the backstory. You play Revan, and this is a major plot twist, like near the middle of the game, near the middle or ending of the game, that your character has turned out to be this evil Sith Lord that you've been trying to stop, that had lost their that had been basically brain wiped, and so um, with that in mind in the story, this is eventually revealed to you by Revan's apprentice Darth Malik, and you're shown like all the instances where they were alluding to your character uh, being a Sith Lord the entire time and like being brainwashed. The thing is, though, KOTOR, the way they lay the clues is it feels like something's off the entire time. And so the twist doesn't feel unnatural. It feels like, oh, finally I got some answers. And it makes sense. So, my little rant about that. Let's see. Cool Crusader says the reader don't want to work. Depends. The reader's already doing plenty of work by just reading in general. That it's not easy to read, especially with how a lot of modern writing is. One thing I've also been praised for on Emerald Man is my composition. A lot of people seem to like it. I had one comic book friend, I'm gonna keep him anonymous, that told me my layouts are better than professionals, and a lot at least professionals of nowadays because you can actually tell what's going on. So that's kind of funny. I know I'm not the craziest with my layouts at all, but I just my primary focus is readability. So A, Patrick Buckley says a good writer is good at making the reader think he is clever. A great writer is good at making the reader feel clever. Exactly, Patrick. Oh, hello, Oranui. How are you doing? You still having problems with your job? I'm sure. At least you don't have to wear the MLP icon anymore. Oh my gosh. I'm glad my job doesn't force us to do stupid stuff like that. Like have to wear like a freaking My Little Pony thing. That's that just sounds stupid as heck. Yeah, I'm flying. I'm still trying to figure out a good flying pose for him. But for now, this is the best I got. It's kind of funny making it wacky, but or kind of clumsy looking. But at the same time, I mean, he's not like aerodynamically flying, so he's kind of just manipulating telekinesis to lift him up. So, in my opinion, that should look a little janky anyway. And yes, I've been trying to work on my foreshortening. Not always the best at it. It can look awkward sometimes in Emerald Man. Karai Cheiju Gasao says, hello, I stumbled upon your account only a few days ago. I don't have any questions, but I wanted to say I love your comic. Haven't read it all but yet, but so far I basically love everything about it. What'd you love about it? Patrick Buckley says, I got KOTOR half spoiled for me because I saw the light side rubs in the Starforge on the wiki and it all clicked. Yep. Always be aware of the wiki. Are you talking about like Wikipedia? Because I don't really like that wiki. Most Wikia staff are kind of stuck up, in my opinion, because I've gotten in trouble with them before simply for like trying to customize my page after a few edits. They're like, you need more edits." It's like, okay, but every time I make an edit, you roll it back because you guys are so well stuck up on yourselves. Like, it wasn't just Wikipedia. Like, there was the Marvel database, there was the some of the Super Mario wiki, other things like that. I've had that problem with. I don't like troll or anything on them. Just it's hard to make edits, especially when I try to fix grammar and everything, and they still roll it back, and because it's like, oh no, that was my job. It's like, well, you're not doing your job because you didn't see this grammar error. But I digress. I have no love for wikis. See, my chats is mostly just me ranting when I have these questions. Oh, Teju Gasal says, or sorry if I'm butchering your name, I don't know how to pronounce that. I believe my favorite aspects are the character designs and the fact that the colors of your protagonist almost match with my main character. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was told I tell a lot of people this, but I was told by like another person who was like overviewing my stuff, that I should switch it up from purple and green to like white and green or black and green because I guess purple and green's a villain color or something like that. That's what I was told. And while that is sort of true, it's not necessarily true. I I'll be honest. There's this weird idea that certain characters have to be color coded in comic books just to know they're a good and bad guy, which is probably why green characters aren't very popular. But green's my favorite color, and I also think that's a stupid rule. I mean, people like Invincible, and that character, in my opinion, like I hate the character designs in Invincible for the costumes. They look terrible, in my opinion. But people still like that crud. So I don't see why my stuff has to be. I don't see why my stuff necessarily needs to stay within like the consistent red and blue color schemes that most people are used to. Let's see. More especially the abundance of green and purple. Yes, I love my green and purple. And like I said, I've been told that's more of a villain color by some people, but I don't know. It is true. It is a villain color. It by a lot of Marvel villains and whatnot use it, but there's also heroes too that use green and purple, like the Hulk. I mean, yeah, he's not a hero. He's more of an anti-hero, but it's not like it's against the rules to make a character like that. That's the thing I found was a little ridiculous. This idea that like I have to abide by some sort of coloration rule. Now, yes, Colin, you're very arrogant for thinking that because it's just supposed to be helping, like with visual design law and whatnot. Yeah, I guess, but that's not how I want to design the character. I'm confident enough in my characters that I think people will like it just regardless. So there you go. Gosh, my least favorite things. That I've been trying to do this more because I guess it's more industry for industry, like what a lot of people in the industry do. But when they have a character's like limbs or something come out of a page to make it seem like they're popping out, it's great and all. But I don't usually like doing that. Not because I don't like the look of it, but it's like that's one of those things in comic books that doesn't always appeal to me with the artwork where it's just popping out unless you use it for a good reason. So, Cool Crusader says not everything is McDonald's. Yeah, not everything's McDonald's. I wouldn't want everything to be McDonald's either, or I'd get sick to my stomach. Sorry for snorting there. I laugh at my own jokes. Um, Karai Teju Gasao says, sorry if I'm butchering your name again. I'm pretty much a novice artist, but I would advise not to change the color. I personally like it, and my character is also supposed to be a hero. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I don't plan on changing it. See, here's the thing. A lot of people will do these redesigns of their characters. Every now and then, I might do that, but I personally try to keep a design consistent if I really like it. I think it's usually a bad idea to change it all the time. Even for like characters like Spider-Man, I only really like two of his costumes in the comics. His regular one and then the black suit. That's really about it. Everything else isn't very good. Especially with all these new video games when they're making these new costumes for him. I hate the look of them. Irrationally. I hate them. Let's see. Patrick Buckley says green and purple has a psychological effect that is supposed to be kind of scary. Well, one you are using duller, darker versions. It also helps convey the supernatural element. Actually, I'm kind of using brighter ones now. Let me show an example. Uh, I don't think this will be too much of a spoiler if I show like the cover, for example. I'm trying to use a little bit more of the brighter pastel colors now for Emerald Man. That way people can know better. Oh gosh, this is so far behind. Let's see. I mean, not everything needs to be cookie cutter and fast food for comics. Yeah, precisely. Karai says also, don't worry about butchering the name. It's not exactly a language friendly to English speakers. Okay. Is it like is it like Polynesian or not Polynesian? Like from what's it called? Southeast Asia. It sounds like that to me. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong for the name. That or it looks kind of Mongolian. I don't know. Patrick Buckley says Batman, Spider-Man, and Iron Man have a bad habit when it comes to the oversaturation of alt costumes. Kind of. With Iron Man, I understand because he's always upgrading his stuff, and so is Batman. But Spider Man, he has no reason to constantly be upgrading his costume all the time. I mean, I one thing I really hate about modern Spider Man stuff is they keep trying to give him all this freaking tech. And it's like, yes, he uses tech in the comics, especially the early Ditko ones, but not very often. He uses mostly a spider signal, and he has these trackers he'll throw on, but other than that, I usually don't like it when they give Spider Man a lot of technology in his costume because he's already really powerful anyway. Karai says ha ha ha. It's not Southeast Asian, but it is Southern. Okay. Well, I don't know then. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I don't really enjoy Spider-Man having a bunch of technology on in his costumes. Well, so you guys are seeing me still drawing, correct? I hope so. My phone might be a little behind on things. I'm still seeing the live chat, but it has been updating it, right? I'll go check on actual Chrome. How about that? Do not restore pages. Because I need to check. Uh oh. I'll go check on actual Chrome. How about that? But it looks like it's stuck in a loop on my end. Because I need to check. Because for some reason it looks like I'm still drawing the above page. I wonder if my voice isn't sticking along with the actual drawing you're seeing. Let's see. It's Guarani, indigenous language of Paraguay, my country. Oh, okay. Okay, Paraguay. I know where that is on a map. I've never been to it, though. It's right next to Uruguay. Yeah, I think the stream might be behind on where my drawing is because I'm currently drawing Christina, but my thing is showing on here. It's showing footage from a way while back instead. So let me see what's going on there. Let me see. Yeah, that doesn't look right. Here it's showing footage from a way while back. Yeah, instead. For some reason it's not syncing with my actual video. What the heck is going on? They're just in between the vid and voice, but I think it's fine. It's not fine because it's really behind with the video. What is going on? Okay, let me check the settings on here again. Oh no, now it's really messed up. What happened? Okay, is this better? Let's see if this actually fixed it or not. Yeah, I'm further down on the page with this. Let me see. I might disconnect the stream a little bit and then see if that will fix it. Okay, it has my video capture just fine, but for some reason, is this better? Yeah, it's really behind for the video. I don't know how to fix that. What is going on? See, this is why I should have, this is why I should have been more careful. Let's see. I didn't want to capture the cursor, though. That's the problem. Looking fantastic so far. Okay. Also, what I love specifically about the designs is they're simple but still very charming to look at. Not too many details that, like it's normally prefer sometimes. It sounds fine to me. I think Patrick's right though. I think I need to reconnect. How do I do that without interrupting the darn stream? Because I don't want to cause any problems. Okay. See, everything else on my end looks fine. What if I hide things for a second? Probably not going to help. So, oh. My question is, how do I fix this? Because it's gone really slow now on the other end. I've never seen this happen before. I guess I can do that. Updating setting. Update. There. A streamer I watch regularly also uses Streamlabs, and they seem to have a disconnect anytime they need to reset. So you might not be able to. The problem is, I want you guys to be able to see what I'm drawing in real time. I'm gonna see if I can switch over to OBS real quick. Hopefully this doesn't end the stream, but if it does, I'll start up another one immediately. This is what I get for trying to use Streamlabs for once. I should have just stuck to my OG. Let's see. Let's see if this does any. Okay, there we go. I hope they can hear me now. There we go. Gosh, I hate this so much. Why is it so laggy? Yeah, I realize that now, Buckley. I don't worry. I had another tab up seeing if I could hear myself or not. You know what? I'm just gonna put the sound on my phone just so I can hear the feedback, just so I know it's still going. It looks like it's more caught up now though, so that's good. Oh yeah, that's good. Yay! That's what I wanted. Sorry if I booted everybody out. I bet I just lost a lot of the viewers. Note to self, we're not using Streamlabs again. I'll probably have to uninstall that. There we go. Well, I might have lost some of my viewers now, but it's okay. At least I know for next time I do this that things are gonna get kind of annoying if I don't pre-set up. So that's on me. I should have been more vigilant on that. Okay, it is now caught up so far. That's all I wanted. All I ever wanted in life was to be caught up on this, so that's good. Okay. I do apologize for all the technical issues. Very, very unprofessional. But I told myself I'd try to start streaming a little bit more if I could for my artwork, because no, I don't want to focus entirely on YouTube. Because here's the thing: you focus entirely on YouTube, you lose a lot of people, and you lose time for your actual art. I know there's a lot of people in indie comics that say, "Oh, you should focus on YouTube all the time," but problem with using YouTube as marketing is you should really have somebody else running that for you, or you do it all by yourself, but you have less time to work on your own stuff. And I'm an artist and writer. I don't have time to. I know some people are like, oh, that's a cop out answer. No, not really. I genuinely don't have time to be making like constant YouTube content as well. That takes hours of your day. I know. I used to edit videos just for fun when I was younger. It takes time. That's a full career right there on top of trying to make comics. That ain't gonna work, buddy. I'm gonna tweet out about the stream again so people can get the link. There we go. Just tweeting that out so people realize it's still running. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. And I do apologize for all the technical issues. Yeah, I really wish I had the money to be an editor so I could put that out bids explaining my game setting. Ugh, yeah. And that's why I don't focus on like YouTube and whatnot as like a part of my comic stuff most of the time. Because here's the thing is, and I know there's people in indie comics who tell me, "Oh, Colin, you should be doing that to promote your stuff." My issue becomes I am making a comic too, and yeah, I know some of these people are they get a full year to make the comic, whatnot. That's great. I'm not doing that though. I release these things bi-monthly. I told myself I'd have a consistent release schedule, and it's been a working plan. I mean, I have consistent readers that like my stuff. It's a try. It's an old-fashioned tried and true method. Just get your comic out there, and you get readers. I always tell people that, like, I assure you, there are readers out there for what you want to write, unless it's just absolutely garbage. But uh, if you have a decent amount of talent, you're gonna get readers. I will say this though, I do believe there's such a thing as natural talent. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's a bunch of bullcrud. You can just learn how to draw and whatnot." Oot de do. Yeah, not everybody knows how to, can has a natural talent and the urge to draw. There's going to be someone who's going to be better, and I know there are people better than me. There are plenty of people who are better than me who can draw far better. This is a funny thing. It's her little wings being all small and whatnot because they're growing. I crack myself up sometimes, but um, there are people who are just naturally talented, okay, and they can like whip up with enough. They need practice too, of course, but they can whip up really good art pieces. And I'm like, dang, I wish I was that talented. But at the same time, it doesn't diminish me thinking, oh, I like drawing anyways. I may not be that talented like that person, but that doesn't mean that I have to beat myself up. You never really have to do that. But and even then, I believe there's natural talent. Some people are better at or more well naturally attuned to certain arts than others. I think if you don't believe in that, you're ignoring your own senses. There are just people, some people are naturally better at driving than others, and so they become race car drivers and stuff. Some people are naturally better at basketball, so they become proficient basketball players. Some people are better at music, like my siblings, my sister and my second eldest brother, really great with the music. I can't even read sheet music. Very difficult. I trade my rendering for your speed. Well, I'm not always. The thing is, I wish I could be fast and intricate because I should know better. I should know better because I could slow down. I probably should slow down and make my art look a lot better. But at the same time, I kind of enjoy whipping up something fast. I kind of think that's one of my strengths. Oh, from Cool Crusaders, yep, but a good part of it gives everyone a unique style because people have different skill sets and perspectives. This is true, we do. And that's where natural talent comes into play because some people are just naturally better at, for example, I like to be pretty fast with my comics. and that's a skill set that gives me a strength. And with my cartooning, that's one of the ways I can actually be so fast as with the cartoons. If I was focusing on realism, you probably should slow down. You want to make it look nice, you know. I don't even know what I'm rambling about anymore, to be honest. I guess I'm just saying natural talent is a real thing, and some people have it, and some people don't. And I think natural talent's a big part to play with my comics because I feel like I'm pretty inclined to pick up a pencil and be pretty quick with it, and I think I do a good job anyway. I get self-critical about my art sometimes, but show me an artist who doesn't. Seem coherent to me. Oh, thank you. You're making me feel better on that. I just couldn't tell you an artist that isn't self-critical. Most are, and that's actually it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes it can be a good thing, so you constantly improve, and other times it really is a detriment. For me, I think it helps me improve. Like, gosh, I could not imagine like showing people. Well, actually, I have, but I couldn't imagine like making Emerald Man with the art style I had about 10 years ago, almost. Gosh, it's been that long since high school. Well, technically 8 years since high school, but it's still a long freaking time. Anyways, like my old art style when I was in high school wasn't great. It really wasn't. And I would, I could not live with myself if I had drawn it. If I drew like current Emerald Man comics that I did back then, I would draw some Emerald Man stuff. Of course I did. But if I did it nowadays, it would it would be rough. And to be fair, I was wanting to make Emerald Man when I went into college, but it's a good thing I didn't because I would not have had the freaking time. That's when I wrote a majority of my scripts was in college. Okay, she's stretching, just letting her wings spread. Now it's no. I've never watched Sailor Moon, so I don't know how to make an actually good-looking female transformation. Sorry, we're out of them. My brother's wife loves Sailor Moon though, and so do a lot of other people I know. Patrick Buckley says, I used to draw a foul Dragon Ball Z style, then I had to relearn after I didn't draw for like 5 years. Yeah, not a good thing to just give up drawing for a little bit. Not to judge or anything. I'm just saying it's you can get rusty. I draw. I used to say I draw every day, but that's not always true anymore because of work and whatnot. Sometimes I'm too tired to draw after work. So instead, what I usually do is I try to draw weekly, or at least a few days of the week. That way I stay practiced, and that's why I'm working on this comic. I mean, just working on Emerald Man alone. When I look at my stuff from 2023 compared to now, when I like 2023 when I started the comic compared to now, oh man. Actually, no, I started in 2022. I forgot. Oof, that's right. I released it January, like originally released it in 2022, the first issue in like I think October or November, because I was working on it through the summer and taking my time. And then I've basically been working on comic books basically nonstop ever since then. It's kind of amazing to think about in retrospect. Like, sheesh. I've drawn more comics now than I did even when I was a little kid. If I told my little kid self that, he'd be like, "No, I draw all the time." Yeah, but you don't draw full-fledged comics, young Colin. You're just drawing like a comic every now and then, and you keep rebooting the lore because you don't like it all the time. This character of Sapphire Swan, for example, like the whole adding of the Swan thing is an incredibly recent addition because I kept thinking, well, she's just copying Emerald Man the entire time. And so I told myself she needs to have a distinct identity still. That way, like, I don't feel like I'm just like, oh, it's an Emerald Man. Like, I literally have an Emerald Man ripoff in the world who's copying him. Because originally she was just called Sapphire. And to be fair, I kind of feel like I should go back to just calling her that, but I don't know. When I added the Swan stuff, I think it was 2023. I was conceptualizing how to do her in the current version of this. Uh, Originally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna base the story off of some Celtic swan stuff because I studied that when I was in college. There was about Celtic poetry, and there's a lot of leitmotifs about swans and everything like, or not leitmotifs, but there's themes about swans. It's the national bird of one of the national birds of Ireland, and a big part of their legend. And so I told myself, what if her powers were associated with that? Okay, I got a I got a working point there. She's a sapphire swan, or originally I was just calling her the Swan. Of course, that's not going to work because that's already a superhero name. So I decided, okay, we'll do Sapphire Swan then, because she's a sapphire. She's go back to that original name. So we'll just do the Sapphire Swan instead, and that worked for me. Okay, I gotta draw the background outlines now. I know, Colin, you haven't drawn the background outlines yet because I've been talking. I've been yapping this whole time, folks. Here's a comic book cheat. I'm just gonna draw him speeding. I don't like how that looks. Just drawing him speeding through with a bunch of these speed lines. Here's a, isn't that a neat idea? There we go. Oops. Why is it doing that? What the heck? Yeah, I do use these to cheat a little bit with the straight lines, but to be fair, I use a ruler in real life, so it's not like this is cheating or anything like that. Like I used rulers and compasses and stuff in real life when I'm drawing by hand, so it's not like I'm doing anything too evil by using a line assist tool. I hope. What program am I using? Fire Alpaca. I've used this ever since I was in high school because it was free. This was the first like big. I used to use when I was younger. Like I learned some Photoshop, but I didn't really like it because there was a bunch of complicated stuff to it, and it didn't make the lines as crystal clean. This program is mostly made. This this program is mostly made for comics, but like I think web comics and stuff. But it works for me because I don't need all the fancy tools in Photoshop anyways. I just need this. This is all I need. And yes, man, is a tool using species. I'm using a pencil right now. It's not cheating. This though. I don't know if I would see. Here's my thing with calling man a species. I know it's the correct term, but it always makes me think it's being associated with an animal, and I don't believe humans are animals. We're different. I'm a fundy. I'm a fundamentalist creationist. I don't believe in evolution. I believe dinosaurs existed, but not the way they say it. I unironically believe they existed alongside humans once upon a time, and they died off. Colin, how could you be a fundamentalist like that? I know. I just ruined everybody's perception of me. I know. Sorry about that. I'll try better in the future. But I've never been really convinced by the. I've never really been convinced by the arguments for evolution. I always thought it was like, okay, this just sounds like you're just ignoring the Genesis account just for the sake of ignoring it, because it literally answers all this stuff very easily. But then one might be like, well, Colin, what about the carbon dating and stuff like that? I don't think that's. I think using radioactive decay of like anything isn't a great dating way of actually figuring out dating and stuff. But Colin, you use it for archaeological things. I guess. I don't usually agree with most modern archaeology, too. I think a lot of it's pretty poorly done, to be honest. It's the thing is, a lot of people mistake the study of like anthropology for history. Anthropology is not history. It's a very different thing. No, it's a part of history. It can be used for understanding history. But the problem is most people treat anthropology as like this, oh, this is history and stuff. It's like not really. Nah, I don't like how that looks. Okay. I know. Okay, I'm rambling there. I need to focus on more on the art stuff because I'm gonna get into something that shouldn't be clipped out of context, and it's like, oh, look at that idiot drawing and everything like that. So here, I'll go back to the subject matter of Emerald Bank because I don't want to. I don't want to scare you guys off. I don't want to scare anyone off for being a troglodyte who lives under a rock. A ton of it is speculation. Yes, of course it is, and they treat it like fact. That was my big problem. I remember I pointed that out in school when I got the biology teacher was like, "Well, it's not speculation. It's like you use the term theory and yet you treat it like definitive proof." Well, it's because theory is mutually agreed upon. But just because a group of people agree on something does not make it entirely true. Now, yes, you could use the same arguments for Christianity. The difference with Christianity is that there is a long tradition of these things. And yes, there is for science too, I guess, but science is constantly changing. The answers are usually always different between each generations. This isn't true for Christianity. Christianity is pretty consistent. And I just realized I drew a lot of this stuff on the character layer. Whatever. Oopsie daisies. Not good. This is what happens when I get into a rant, guys. I start losing track of what I'm doing. Right here, Christina is changing into her Sapphire Swan costume. For anyone who just joined, I don't know who did. Another thing about, just real quick, another thing about like evolution and stuff is a lot of atheists try to say, oh, well, this is an answer because the God is contradictory and everything, and this is our definitive answers. Science does not have definitive answers. That's the issue. It's often used to I've seen people use it as like, well, here's my definitive answers here in the scientific form, so there we go. And it's like, no, you don't have definitive answers even with science. In fact, it changes. So if you're going to criticize like the Bible and other things like that, the problem is you need to look at your own research and realize, oh heck, well, science isn't perfect either. And if a scientist agrees with that, okay, good. I'm glad you agree with me that science isn't perfect. We can agree to disagree on our views. But then there's some people that treat it as if it's ironically the word of God, and you can't question it. Those people don't believe in science. In fact, the idea of believing in science, if you actually like science, is a stupid statement. Because the idea of science is not to believe, but to know, to research. So there you go. I'm not drawing a background for this part because we're going to be having some magic going on, and the idea is just. My original idea was to have her do like a Wonder Woman spin where she changes into her costume, but I realized that would be a little bit too on the nose, and plus I didn't have a good way of like showing the wings coming out that way, so I just figured this was a better way of doing it. I might save the Wonder Woman twirl for Blue Moon. That would be funny. Which, by the way, I am trying to figure out the next script for Blue Moon. Uh, that will take a bit. Let's look at the chat again. It's been a second. That's called scientism, says Patrick Buckley, and it has historically held back science more than any religious doctrine. Yup, says Cool Crusaders. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, we have the background done. We have speed lines and everything done. Excellent. Cool. Here's what I'm going to do now. It's called, I'm getting out my notebook. This is where I write my scripts usually. Um, well, I actually write it on Google Docs, but then I'll have pages like this where let me show you an example of what the current page we're on looked like. So I changed it up a little bit, but this is how I draw my scripts. It's more of like a storyboard nowadays, where I'll go through and copy the script I actually wrote, and I'll draw it out in a rough draft, and then afterwards I will use, because I know some people here are new and they haven't seen me show this on stream before. I'll draw it on one of these pads here. Uh, And we have the sketch here just to show you I'm authentic and real, and I actually draw these things out because some people question it not me before. I use these things to get my drawing. So I'm actually drawing and then redrawing this thing usually. The reason I do the first draft of the storyboarding is so I can know what the composition and the page format's going to look like just very roughly instead of just drawing it on the spot because usually that doesn't turn out very good. So here is me just trying to test it out for myself and also so I can give something for people to look over and read. But this is also where I write the dialogue. The funny thing is, when my normal scripts, I write very dialogue heavy. I have to cut out the majority of it when I'm actually making the comic. So when I draw these things, I limit myself to how the dialogue's going to turn out. So just a little bit of behind the scenes there. Let's see. So I always make a separate layer for the word bubbles. And yes, I hand draw the word bubbles, by the way. Because I've used programs for the word bubbles and I never like how it turns out. It clashes with my art style. And then sometimes I'll add some dialogue if I have the space to do it. So here's some changing. my little cheesy dialogue here. And thus our crystalline night soars into the air. Find our disruptive ruffian. Here, let's put that left line. There we go. Cool Crusader says I've been using word bubbles pre-made ones because I'm lazy. I'll be honest, there's no shame in doing that. I'm not trying to shame anyone. I would be using that too, but I think it looks bad with my art style. Because I did try it initially. I don't have it saved or any examples to show you guys because I didn't like the way it looked, but I prefer hand drawing them. It looks better. Okay. Went this way, but he's not here. Yeah, sorry if I'm quiet here. I get quiet when I work on the dialogue. A little bit of spoilers there. She does have to regrow them and whatnot, which seems a little gross. I'm sure, but I couldn't figure it. Here's the thing, you know how like Angel in the X-Men he has to like shove his wings in like a shirt or whatever. I always thought that was stupid. I was like, why can't they just go like poof and then come back? You know, I feel like that would be better. But what do I know? See, this is why I like hand drawing it because if you look at it, it actually matches my art style with the way my pen work and everything when works. If I did regular digital ones pre-made, which I don't know if Fire Alpaca even has those on here. I know some other programs do, but if I did that, it would clash hardcore with my current line work and everything like that. So I don't use it for that reason. There might be a word bubble tool. I don't know. I've never seen a word bubble tool though on here. I'm sure there is one somewhere, but I'm not gonna bother looking for it because I don't need it. And now that I'm doing a thought bubble, here's something contentious. I know a lot of people don't like thought bubbles anymore. Oh, hold on, chat updated. And Patrick Buckley says, Angel's a mutant, so it makes more sense he's stuck with the wings. I actually think it's more silly he even bothers to hide them. I agree. Okay, hot take. I think X-Men is stupid as a concept. you can go kill me now. You can go string me up and everything, but I hate X-Men so much just as a concept. Oh, we're a bunch of teenagers that just happen to be born with these powers. Here's my thing. How the heck does the X gene allow your eyes to be portals to like a force dimension or conjure storms or have telekinetic powers or anything like how the frick does that work? Oh, well, it's just the X gene. Sure, but like how does your genetics do that? I've never seen genetics accidentally making it so somebody can like bamf out of different directions like Nightcrawler. Granted, I like Nightcrawler. He's a cool character, but it doesn't make sense to me. Now, characters like Beast and Wolverine, that makes sense. I can understand their mutant powers. Mystique, I understand. Characters like Magneto, no, no, sorry, that's stupid. Cool Crusader says most of the Marvel Legends are X-Men related too, which is like, bruh. Okay, that's me talking, not my brother, not Cool Crusaders. That's my brother, by the way. Sorry for doxing or whatever, but I don't think you care. Uh, my big issue with X-Men is that they're a bit oversaturated, and I'll be honest, I don't think they fit into the Marvel universe well. It's weird to me that the X-Men get like persecuted for their powers when there's a ton of other more dangerous characters out there that got their powers through other means. It just doesn't make sense to me why they would love characters like Captain America or Hulk. I guess they don't love Hulk, but they're other Marvel characters that don't have that crazy of powers or who have crazier powers than the X-Men. And they're like, "Oh yeah, these guys are fine." And I know this is not an original argument, but it's one I absolutely agree with because it's stupid. Let's see. Patrick Buckley says all mutants should have solely physical powers. Psionics is a bit odd, but it makes sense for me. Or for the time. Sorry. No, I don't think psionics makes sense. Psionics is a magical power, in my opinion. It makes more sense as something like you can use with like a spell or something like that, or technology. That doesn't seem like something that can occur naturally to me because I've never seen that occur in nature. I don't know of any animal or plant or anything like that that can read your mind or move things telekinetically because it's against the laws of physics mostly. Or if anything, it becomes a supernatural thing. I don't know. Again, I've mentioned this before, but I'm just a hater when it comes to like the X-Men and stuff. So you don't have to listen to my opinions on this, but I don't like them as much. I just don't. I think they kind of suck. The only characters I like are like Wolverine and Nightcrawler for the X-Men. That's really about it. I despise Deadpool. That's my biggest hot take. Is I think Deadpool's a stupid character and I hate him. I'm tired of him. Okay, now I gotta go Risa. Actually, before I do that, let's not do something stupid, Colin. We're gonna start coloring now because I can do that. I always try to color the panels first. We'll do this color for the transformation sequence. Oh, I think I forgot a word bubble color. Yeah, I did. Oops. That's what I was wondering about. And thus our crystalline knight soars into the air. There we go. That's better. And thus our crystalline knight soars into the air and cried. Let's see. Used this color blue for the night sky. Use this to show this at the back of the diner, and then use this to keep up with the Sapphire Swan's transformation. I'm starting to actually kind of like using these uh, saturated colors for the backgrounds and stuff, especially like I've been noticing older comic books use white a lot for their backgrounds. I need to start using that more. It's not lazy either. It actually helps with clarity for some of the fight scenes. I realize I need to do that more often. Okay, now that I got that done, I could erase that, or not erase it, but turn that off. Then erase part of this. See, Patrick Buckley says meta is an overused concept. I agree. And I try not. I think meta's lame and cringe half the time anyway. The only character in Marvel I like who gets all meta and whatnot was like John Byrne's She-Hulk, but even then it goes a little too far sometimes with that, especially with how risque it gets. I'm surprised they were allowed to print that, but that's when the comic code was going away. So, and then background colors. There we go. Okay. I've been noticing ever since I switched over to doing this is my color reference, by the way. Ever since I started doing this with Blue Moon, it's made my coloring faster and it makes it look better, in my opinion. I don't think everybody agrees with that, but I think using the more saturated colors gets more the look I wanted for Emerald Man, anyways. That's why I'm switching over to it. In my opinion, this is how I wanted it to look. They're similar colors, anyways, and if you look at the previous issues, because I was trying to get a comic book color down, but I also was using like the mod. I was trying to do shading the way I was taught to by some other like art kids and whatnot when I was in school. Well, I don't think they knew. I don't think they taught me quite well. So now I'm just doing my own thing here, and I think it looks better. If you guys have any questions about like Emerald Man lore or the way the series is handled, or any like stuff that you feel like hasn't been answered that I could answer here, as long as it's not spoilers, go ahead and shoot that to me because I love answering questions. So then I'm kind of tired of ranting about how bad comic books have gone. It's tiresome. It's tiresome. You know, you can only do it for so long until it's like, yeah, I've heard this rhyme and story for several days and centuries. Move on to something else. Get new material. Let's see. Buckley says, I actually try to use very saturated colors when I can. The funny thing is, I think it's more realistic. It is, especially in the Middle Ages. I hate the grunge brown that they usually use in movies for the Middle Ages nowadays, because that's not how they looked like. They would people in the Middle Ages they dressed up in these really colorful uniforms or in armors and whatnot. Like they would literally paint on top of their plate mail sometimes their coat of arms or some other funny thing and kill each other that way. That's just what they would do. Imagine doing that. See, Buckley says, I'm moving too slow. I'm afraid to ask anything because I don't want to spoil myself. Well, I'm okay with. I mean, I'll try to avoid spoilers then. But if you have any burning questions that about even the process, I'd be willing to answer then. Because I don't mind answering about that either. I know there's other people in the chat. Oh, I'm gonna reposition myself. I'm getting comfortable. I've been sitting in this position for about 2 hours now. One thing, though, is with Blue Moon, I am trying to script the next one. It's real difficult right now because I don't know. It was originally just supposed to be a one off, I intended. But since there's a lot of people that liked it, I feel like I need to make another one after I release this issue of Emerald Man. And so I am working on trying to script it, but I think my issue comes down to the balancing act of like, do I focus on building the world and whatnot, but I also want to put like some more action in it. I'm trying to figure out like what would be the logical next step that feels right, but not forced or not feel like, oh, he's running out of ideas again, or he doesn't know what he's doing here. I'll just use this. Yeah, I'm just trying to avoid looking like I don't know what I'm doing with that stuff. So, one idea though is to maybe focus a little bit more, maybe one or two more issues on like the organized crime stuff, or I really want to I really want to write some of the supervillains, but I feel like it'd be too early. That's one of my big problems is I'm trying to figure out like, do I make Blue Moon like in focusing more on the supervillains, or do I focus more on this organized crime a little bit? That's what I'm kind of stuck on. Oh, new question. Are Blue Moon and Emerald Man in the same universe but different time periods? Yes, they are. They're absolutely. Emerald Man takes place in the modern day, and Blue Moon is 1950s. Blue Moon intentionally, I made a prequel because I realized I wanted to draw all the characters as all the gangsters as actual mafioso and everything like that. I did that in issue 2 and 3 of Emerald. Well, the first 3 issues of Emerald Man, I had like Valentine's Gang and everything, and I had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, that doesn't." Even though I knew they would do this, and I ignored it because it was funny to me. I had a lot of people say, "Well, this feels a little bit out of place," and yeah, it was, admittedly, and I knew it would feel that way. So I told myself, okay, that's just for that one issue of Emerald Man. The problem is, I want to keep making stuff like that, so instead, I'm using Blue Moon in order to channel that kind of energy. And so here's a little bit about Blue Moon that I haven't really talked about. That character is not as old as Emerald Man, but she's pretty darn close with the concept. I didn't draw her a lot. I know my brother's gonna be like, "Oh, I don't remember you drawing this character," because I would only she would always get stuck at the concept. She would always be stuck at a concept of this female vigilante that got her powers from moonlight. But I never really knew how to make it work, and I never really knew what the gimmick would be besides the moonlight thing. I was like, well, what else am I going to add to this character? And so Blue Moon, I kind of got stuck in this phase of like, I don't know what to do with this character for ages, like absolutely ages. Even though there was one time I made her also a magic user like Emerald Man that was called Moon Dust for a while, but that didn't feel right. And had ideas of this character called Pantheon for a while that was based off the Egyptian pantheon, and I didn't like that. And so instead, I went back to Blue Moon, not willingly, but more like, what do I do with this? And I didn't know for a while. And then it always happens to me at work, I get my best ideas. I got this idea of like, what if she was some sort of former mob boss wife that that got betrayed or whatever. That's kind of where the story started there. So, uh, and then I got the idea, and then sometime around October, when it was Inktober and whatnot, I was drawing off. I had designed her stuff months beforehand, like an original idea of a costume that was asymmetric. I didn't like its look, and I started working on another character that kind of had crazy hair. And then suddenly, just one time, I'm eating Subway after a work shift, and I had my drawing pad with me and my pens and everything. And so after I'm done eating my Subway, just in the Subway, I start freaking drawing this design that I posted last October. And I'm like, what did I just do? I added this like the crazy like bluish black hair that I wanted to on another character, and I added it to her, and then went with the asymmetric costume that had like a little bit of the skin showing on one of the leg and whatnot, and the half mask and everything, which was really weird. But I was like, this oddly works. It's not how I usually design things, but it oddly works. Mm. Oh, let me get back to the chat. Buckley says, I mean, you could make that a themed gang all like villains have superhero settings. I could, um, and I definitely have thought of that, but I don't know. I don't know. There's something about that themed gang thing that never really sits right with me half the time. By the way, his cape's actually a dark turquoise now, but it doesn't look that way because it's dark turquoise. Or his colors. I noticed that. I was like, huh, that actually looks like the kind of green I want, but it's actually a dark turquoise. There you go. For themed gangs, I've thought about it, but for Emerald Man, I'm gonna say no to that. I like focusing on super villains for him. For Blue Moon, I might do themed gangs. Emerald Man's kind of my like. I put a lot of my loving of Spider-Man into that for the energy. You've probably noticed that with some of the writing is very similar to like Silver Age Spider-Man and Iron Man comics. Uh, with Blue Moon, that's kind of how I. It's kind of how I feel about Batman. Is kind of how her character comes across to me, and also just classic uh, Silver Age nonsense. So that's with her. I definitely feel like I would do themed gangs. Emerald Man, I don't know. I If I'm gonna show like organized crime, I'd rather just kind of make him not too crazy. To be honest, though, I'm kind of with Emerald Man. I kind of don't like writing the organized crime stuff with him as much. Super villain's more fun. Blue Moon, she can handle that stuff. I did notice something you said though, Patrick, about Blue Moon being a glass cannon. I thought that was an interesting observation because it's not quite how I intended her to come across, but it's kind of correct that she can punch and kick real hard, but ultimately she's still pretty feeble. So that was a cool observation you made. I noticed. So I think I'll try to keep that in mind when I continue my scripting with her. I always thought Emerald Man was a little bit of a glass cannon too, but now I think about it, he definitely I have him take hits quite a bit. More than he should, but he definitely takes hits. More than he ought to. I colored it the wrong way. There we go. So one idea I have with Blue Moon for the next issue with her is trying to focus on the aftermath of like, oh gosh, I went through this transformation, and I ever go back to normal and stuff. That feels like the next logical step for me. The problem is I feel like that's not as interesting of a story, and I don't really know how to tie that into any action. And I have a self guiding rule where I try to have a little bit of action each comic issue I make. At least if I'm doing superheroes. So I feel like I need to come up with some. I Now this is probably not a good rule, and I'm probably hampering myself, but I just feel inclined to follow that. Side note, but I really love these pastel colors. It looks so good on Emerald Man. This is more how I envisioned him. I don't know why I was going with the really dark purple. I think it's because one time on DeviantArt, somebody told me he looked like Barney the dinosaur with the brighter purple, so I had an aversion of doing it. But this looks right because the purple's more muted. This is more how I used to color him when I was younger with like colored pencils. So this is more or less how he was supposed to initially look. That's why I'm glad I'm doing this now with this kind of coloration. He looks more as intended. If that makes any sense. Cool Crusader says the movement is great from panel to panel. Well, thank you. I've had people tell me I have really good. I've said this already today, but I've had people tell me I have pretty good layouts. I try not to brag, but I see what they're talking about. A lot of comic books have this problem right now where they don't really know what they're doing with the layouts. Like I've read too many, like pick up a Marvel comic, and I've read too many of them where I can't even tell what the heck is going on anymore. And this isn't just Marvel comics. Some indie comics are like this too, where there isn't a flow going on. Like I'm trying to go figure out what the heck is going on half the time. I had this, and I don't want to brag on other indie comic creators because I love. So disclaimer: I like their stuff. I like their stories, but like it feels like every single indie comic book I've read for superheroes so far, whether it be Omega Girl or Raven and whatnot, I get confused by what's going on with the story because it's not as clear as I would like it as a reader. And granted, it's not easy. So it's not like I'm trying to rag on them. It's not easy to do that, but that's one thing a lot of people need to work on, especially with professionals. I think it's inexcusable. Marvel used to have it down to a T. Nowadays, they don't even care half the time. They just whip out a comic and with regardless of how good the story is or anything like that, and they just say, "Here's pay $5 for this." And by the way, you need to buy 12 other issues just to get the full story here. It's another $120 with art that isn't even that good. So I need to catch up with the chat again. It says, yeah, I do envy how organic you make motion look while keeping the characters very clear and easy to read. It says, thank you. And Cool Crusader says, yeah, you don't know which panel goes where is a problem even when I was a kid. Yeah, so little note on this. So one thing I always consider when I'm drawing is my eyes flowing with the story. Scott McCloud goes over this with some of his books. You generally want to go here. Since I'm not showing my cursor, let me do a temporary thing. Make it all big and red. Just so you guys know, you generally want to go like this with an American comic. Manga is a little different. So the problem is sometimes you'll have comics do this, and that gets confusing, or sometimes you'll have comics do this. This like gross looking Z is very common in Marvel comics nowadays. I don't know why they do that, but they do that. Or like they'll try to adapt manga, and so they'll do like this, even though that's not how manga is supposed to be read. Manga technically gets read like this too most of the time, but they're doing it wrong. Let's see. Cool Crusaders says, I think the reason people like the Ignition Bionicle comics because even though the art was weird, it was action and fluid. They need to number the panels. Oh, reverse it with manga. Yes. Yeah. Here's the thing. Uh, I like the Ignition Bionicle comics, but they also had some of that same problems too. Cool Crusaders every now and then. It's just a common problem, and I'll be honest, I blame the fact that a lot of it is down to these script writers. They will write these extravagant stories that don't really go well with paper, and they expect the artist to figure it out, and the artist struggles to get because this reminds me of when I was talking to PJ Buckley in the DMs, and I hope this isn't rude, but like he showed me this really lengthy script he wanted as a comic, and I had to tell him like, this is great as a novel. It's too wordy though as a comic, and I hope he didn't take that the wrong way, Buckley, but that's a common issue I see with comic book creators. They want to write a novel when they're writing a comic book. They want to make these big, extravagant, like really wordy, like Brian Michael Bendis is notorious for this. He makes these super convoluted comic plots that he expects to fit into like a mini series or whatever, and it's like you can't freaking tell what the heck is going on. And he tries to over explain it with so much exposition and talking around, and it's a miserable experience as a comic. Miserable. Which is why even though I do kind of have a lot of dialogue in my books sometimes. Actually, I don't have as much as modern comics do, but I like to make mine a little wordier because that's the style I like. I still try to focus on the fact that the visuals need to tell the story first. If you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong. So, which is why I think most comic art writers, they need to know how to draw too before they even get into writing. Is that a mean criteria? Is that too much? Maybe, but that's how I feel. I mean, this is why when you have like, I've noticed a lot of comic books that were the old Marvel method way, where Stan Lee would just give them a synopsis and they basically wrote and drew the comic. They turned out better because the artist would make the story fit with the visuals. But nowadays, you have script writers who come in and deliver a script. And they say, make this fit with the comic book. And sometimes it works, but sometimes it really doesn't. And that's why I think some of these writers need to actually have a concept of how to draw too. That way, when they're writing, they're like, wait a second, how would I draw this? That's how I am with my scripting. Sometimes I'll avoid writing certain stuff I want to write because I'm like, okay, this is a great stuff for a script, Colin. Are you going to draw it? No? Then you should probably not include that scene. I know with the Emerald Man finale, uh, I had it so I had even bigger crowds. And I told myself, no, no, I got to cut out the scenes where I had like these massive crowds and whatnot going on and everything because I'm sorry, that's going to get visually confusing for the for the readers to follow along, and so I just cut down some scenes and everything like that, and it turned out fine. And sometimes you have to take liberties like that, but that's why I say comic writers they need to or at least have a concept of what can and cannot be drawn in a reasonable time frame because these artists still work like pennies on the dime and working for really bad hours and whatnot. Let's see. PG Buckley said, I had tricked myself by knowing that some of my chapters were going to be way more action oriented, but I should have realized the fact that I even had a prologue was enough to say novel. Pretty much. And there's nothing wrong with making an action novel. I've noticed, though, action is really difficult to do in novel form. Every time I've only seen a few creators actually do it right. That is Edgar Rice Burroughs with John Carter and his in Tarzan and everything. Tolkien did it okay, And then I noticed Chronicles of Prydain was pretty good with it. Narnia, I didn't really find the action very compelling, though. I don't think Lewis knew how to make it gripping. Did it? I just don't think he made it very gripping at all. Tolkien did. Like the Battle of Helm's Deep in the book is way better than the movie because of how like you're like, oh crap, they're gonna freaking die. But the movie version, eh, I could live without the movie version. As fun as the movie version is to watch as a spectacle. What was I saying? Oh yeah, it's just sometimes the novel doesn't work the novel when it comes to action is a little harder to do, but it's definitely doable. Uh, and sometimes it's probably better off that way. And another thing with fantasy novels is some people really want to make um, these really big sprawling epics. Here's what I would say: don't do that at first. Tolkien wanted Tolkien. The reason he was going to do that was because he knew what he was doing. He loved Norse epics. But see, oh yeah, Buckley continued. The idea is that a series of episodic sword and sorcery yarns tied together by a meta plot. And then Howard was a master of action in novel form. That he was. He's not loved enough either. So let's see. Let's make this colored because screw that. I'm going to classic comic book colors now. I can make the buildings whatever freaking color I want instead of all the boring grays I did in the first volume. I got really tired of that. I didn't want, but now I people probably notice this in Blue Moon and stuff. I've been making the buildings these really funny colors now, and it's great. I love it. Love coloring these stupid colors. I love it. But yes, Howard was a pretty good writer of action, and what I was gonna say before that is I think some authors get caught up with the fantasy idea that like, oh, I need to make this sprawling epic. When usually when somebody's reading a book, I don't I don't usually go in thinking, oh yeah, I want to go read another book after that. No, that's not usually what I'm doing. I'm usually like, okay, I want a good shut and close story myself. That's just me. I know not everyone's like me that way, but I just want a shut and close story half the time. And did I seriously do this on? I did it all on the character color again. I'm gonna shoot myself. No, not shoot myself. That's not good. I did that on the wrong layer. Oh well, whatever. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah. Usually when I'm looking for a book, I just want a shut and close story, and if I need a sequel really bad, then I'll see if there's a sequel. But I'll be honest, half the stuff they're making in fantasy nowadays, it's like I don't really want a sequel. Like I feel like a lot of stories are ruined because of demand for a sequel. Uh, Buckley says they get too obsessed with wanting to flesh out their world. Me, I think Star Wars method. I think is best. Explain what needs to be explained. Leave the rest to the reader's imagination. Pretty much. You don't need your lore all explained and everything like that, or you're gonna get caught up on the details and then suddenly Lucas even had this happen with Star Wars. He got caught up on the details. And that's why he was like in the prequels, he was running a bunch of contradictions all at once in the story. Now look how much better this looks just with the pastels and everything. Instead of me focusing on trying to make this all look like, ooh, all complicated and grand. But what I was gonna say is Lucas himself in Star Wars didn't try to make everything all no, it's okay. Believe me, dude. I remember helping when I was in high school with the typos. I used to do classroom aid stuff for like some of my teachers for extra credit and everything like that because I was that big of a nerd. And your typos aren't as some people get into like high school and they don't know how to write straight up. That's the scary thing to me. Like they straight up don't know how to write or something like that because I came across a lot of stuff that was just ineligible to read. I mean, heck, I even had to, when my dad was going through college when I was in high school, I had to help him on his papers because he didn't know how to write. My own father. I helped my brother Kyle too, but he was less of a problem. But he still had struggles because they didn't really teach him how to write well in school. So I don't mind typos. But yes, a lot of people get caught up on the overarching plot, and believe me, with my Emerald Man stuff, I do have an idea of like how the world works and everything. I actually have a story Bible written out in my like documents and everything like that that I refer to, where I draw out some certain scenes and whatnot. But usually, though, I don't usually get caught up on the lore bits until I absolutely need to. Yes, you do use Grammarly to help your papers now, thank goodness. I don't have to edit it all the time, you know. But yeah, what did I do that? Oh, oops, I left a hole. In general, while it's good to have like world building and everything figured out, I feel like too many fantasy stories get caught up on it to the point where it's detrimental because it's like I don't want to read all this exposition. I want to read about the plot. And hot take, but even like Avatar: The Last Airbender did that every now and then. I know that's heresy, Colin. How dare you disparage that show? You can't say anything evil about it or bad. But I feel like I'm the only person that doesn't like that show as much as everybody else. I think it got kind of overhyped when it was around. Is that bad? Probably. I'm probably a lunatic that doesn't know what he's talking about. But a lot of these epic fantasy shows, they get caught up on their world building and they don't focus enough on the stuff that actually matters, like action and adventure and other things like that. And then one could argue, well, Edgar Wright, you like Edgar Rice Burroughs, Colin, and he focuses on a lot of that stuff, somewhat. But the thing is, the thing with Burroughs, like showing us Tarzan and Princess of Mars, is that these are completely alien worlds to the readers. So there needs to be an explanation. In contrast with modern day stuff where like most visual mediums like comics or TV or other things like that, you really shouldn't be sitting down and explaining things. You should be showing it. Even in novels, they tell you not to do that, but every now and then it's kind of hard, and I don't mind getting explained to a little bit. But this is the color I used in the previous page. I need to check. Need to check. No, I used this color instead. That's right. I literally gave her regular sapphires, warm colors. It's funny. Yeah, they don't focus on characters or action nowadays in a lot of shows. That's correct. To be fair, I don't always. One thing that does annoy me is there's this really big like emphasis on characters all the time in fiction nowadays. I remember even in high school, I was told, "Oh, what about your characters? What about your characters when you're writing?" And it's like not every story needs to have a character journey, does it? Well, yeah, it does, but that's one thing I get kind of upset about is people get so insistent on this idea that you need character. You need to have your character journeys all the time. And I'm like, not every story needs that. Sometimes I don't want to get focused on some character's drama and other things like that. But a lot of stories are like this nowadays. Let's see. One thing that helps me be less hard with my writing is having an RPG setting where I channel all my gratuitous lore dumps. Yeah, sometimes. That sometimes helps. I wouldn't say it always should help, though. Yeah, I get to draw this part now. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons I don't really. I feel like some stuff gets caught up on the character too much too. Usually, I want good character writing in my stories. Don't get me wrong, it helps. But I always felt like I was always getting criticized for my character for like character writing when I was in high school, and I'm like, well, what about the rest of my plot? But people didn't care about that. And I'll be honest, I tend to go to watch movies or other things for the plot, or if it just gives me a good entertainment factor. I don't half the time these characters I know they're not real, and so I have a hard time getting into them. And I know this makes me weird, but sometimes I feel like there's this like almost idolatry of like the character journey, and it's like this can be a detriment to a story sometimes. Some like old ancient stories, sometimes characters were allegories, and they still ought to be sometimes. But see, character journeys are not necessarily for focusing on a character. Sometimes you can focus on character by letting them be in the world. Precisely. 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 Hold on. I got a message real quick. Don't mind if there's any background noise. My mom just needs to make some food and stuff. I'll probably do this in my room next time. Did I really put those on background layers again? Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm not doing the complex shading anymore, anyways, so. But I agree. Sometimes characters exist to get a story told and less more of just getting caught in their drama. And I'll be honest, I get tired of all the character drama too in stories. I there's this one I feel like because of all like this emphasis on characters, like stuff like Marvel, for example, becomes very soap opera y, and I really don't like that because it gets kind of annoying. Like I don't come here to come for characters whining about like blowing up the X Mansion for the millionth time. I come here because I want to see the X Mansion getting blown up. You know? Does that make sense? Colin, you can't say about that about the X Men. Yeah, well, the X Men are there's a reason they're my least favorite Marvel stuff. Well, some of them. And they're not the least favorite, but I can't handle the character drama. It's annoying. I've never enjoyed all the character drama. Um, and I feel like it's constantly a detriment to the X Men when they focus on that. It, this is why they need someone like Jim Shooter in their leadership again. If they had somebody telling them, "Hey, don't focus on all the petty drama and stuff, and have like actual consequences, and stop killing Professor X for like the trillionth time and whatnot," we'd be game. But no, it's always soap opera stuff. That's why I think modern comics have lost their reader base and they've lost the plot. They've lost the plot quite so. You know, in retrospect, making her clothes the same color as her superhero costume wasn't a good idea, but I thought I was being funny by doing that. So it was like, oh, see, it's not subtle at all about her secret identity, but in retrospect, this makes it very confusing when she's changing her costume. So I'll make sure not to do that again in the future. You know what? I'm making her wings white. Screw that crap. That doesn't. The gray doesn't look good on her. She's a swan, dang it. I know I've been ranting about Marvel for too long, so I need to talk about some other things. Maybe like design philosophy. So, fun fact: Blue Moon, or not Blue Moon, Sapphire Swan's costume. This is actually originally somewhat what Emerald Man's looked like, with like the actual body and everything, without the skirt, of course. This is how his old design looked like, with the kind of pointed elbows and everything like that, and all the like geometric shapes. Because before I added all the Celtic Mist stuff to it, he was very much a simple, regular superhero. And Sapphire had the same costume as him, except in different colors. But ironically, because I've moved along away from his regular superhero stuff, I decided to keep this costume for her because I still liked the way the costume looked. I always liked how it looked better on her, anyways. So there you go. One day I ought to post all like the different variations I did for this character before I did the current costume. There was a time when I had her just having like a half mask and her hair exposed, but I have a big problem with that usually. It's funny because I broke my rules with Blue Moon. I try to usually avoid having hair sticking out on a superhero costume, but Blue Moon I broke my own rule. But only because I was like, this looks too good not to do. The reason I usually don't do hair is because when I'm thinking to myself, well, the bad guy's just gonna grab their hair. It's like number one thing they'll do. But I don't know. I felt like Blue Moon, I gave her the exception. This character, no, I didn't though. So I'm almost done here, and then I'll end the stream. I think I just need to color this part. I'll add the effects in afterwards. We got most of the normal colors down, so that's good. Just have a little bit more to do. That my family wants me to wants to make some dinner soon, so and I need to help them with that. So thank you for actually attending the stream, everybody who did, though. I very much appreciate it. Sorry for all the problems at the beginning with the stream. I'll make sure to not use Streamlab again. Just keep up with OBS again. I I I don't know why I decided to do Streamlabs instead. I knew how to use OBS. It was working fine for all my other streams. I just was like, oh, Streamlabs, look at that. I could use that this time. No, we're not doing that again. This works fine. I don't have all the fancy effects and music. I should probably figure that out, but don't really need it. So, okay. Almost done here, and then I'm going to wrap it up. There's almost an elegance to this costume for her, too. I think that's another reason why I kept it. Excuse me. Nothing too fancy, yes. There is almost an elegance to this costume. I think that's another reason I like it. Okay, one last thing is I need to draw the magic. This is where I actually don't follow the pastel colors because when I tried to do that, it did not look good. Now, someone might ask, Colin, why don't you just. Oh, that's wrong. Actually, that does make me wonder, like, would that look good? No, I already did it the other way. Edge pen at 20. That's just kind of how I prefer doing my magic effects in Emerald Man. It's how I've always kind of drawn it in a way. Oh, dang it. Hold on. There we go. A little bit of cheating. Doesn't hurt. Alright, now for some bright blue with our Sapphire Swan here. Nothing too fancy. Yes, that's right. There we go. Alright. Oh, frick. I just realized. Oh. Okay, that doesn't look bad. Okay, good. Okay. That's the page. Drawn and finished. Actually, maybe a few more things. Oh, I don't want to do that. It's most of the page drawn and finished. There we go. That batter. That's the page drawn and finished. For Emerald Man. The issue number 18. Honestly, losing track of how many I've been doing now. Oh, shoot. This is page 10, not page 11. Wait. Oh, you're kidding me. Did I not say my goodness. Where's my Oh, did I forgot to color this. That can't be right. I thought I colored that. What? Oh no, did I lose all my coloring there? Oh dear. I knew I colored this. Oh, well. Oh well. I'll just redo that one. This is page 11. All right. Well, that's me forgetting that I guess I didn't. I could have swore I colored page 10, but I guess I didn't. Well, guess I'll have to get on that, won't I? Okay, I know for a fact I did. Where is it? I could have swore I colored page 10, but it's not there. Hmm. I wouldn't have started on this if I knew I had colored page 10. Well, oops. So I'll have to do that. Anyways, have a good night, folks. Thank you for joining the stream. Appreciate it. If you guys are interested in me doing this more often, just let me know. And we'll get started on that when we can. So, anyways, have a good night, everybody. Thank you.